The doorbell rang after 20 years. Chapter 1. Life has a way of presenting you with paths you never expected to walk. Mine took a sharp turn 20 years ago, on a cold November evening, when my daughter, Sarah, showed up on my doorstep with a tiny bundle in her arms. That bundle was my granddaughter, Lily, just 3 months old, with a mop of dark hair and eyes that hadn't quite decided what color they wanted to be. Sarah was barely 20, lost, overwhelmed, struggling with things she couldn't articulate, couldn't face. She thrust Lily into my arms, her eyes wild with a mixture of desperation and fear. "Mom," she whispered, her voice raw. I can't do this. Not right now. Can you take her? Just for a little while, until I figure things out?" A little while. That little while stretched into 2 decades. My name is Eleanor. I was 55 then, a widow of 2 years, just starting to navigate the quiet rhythm of my own life after my husband passed. I had raised my 2 children, Sarah and Tom, and thought my active parenting years were behind me. But looking at that tiny, vulnerable face in my arms, looking at my daughter, so lost and in pain, there was no question. My heart simply opened, and I took Lily in. Sarah's life, after that, was fragmented. She struggled. Addiction, mental health issues, unstable relationships. She drifted in and out of touch. There were promises to visit, promises to call, many of them broken. Sometimes months would go by with no word. Her life was chaotic, unpredictable, a stark contrast to the quiet, stable home I was providing for Lily. I didn't understand the full depth of Sarah's struggles then, the demons that haunted her, the pain that made consistent contact, consistent parenting impossible for her. I was hurt, disappointed, sometimes angry at her absence, at the burden that fell on me, at the confusion it might cause Lily. But mostly, I just focused on providing a safe, loving, stable home for my granddaughter. And so, I raised Lily. She called me Mom from the moment she could speak. Thomas, my son, her uncle, was a kind, supportive presence in her life, a steady male figure. But for all intents and purposes, I was her mother. I was there for her first steps, her first words, her first day of school. I was there for the scraped knees, the school plays, the teenage dramas. I was there through childhood illnesses, academic achievements, and the quiet moments of teenage self-discovery. Lily grew up believing I was her mother, with a vague, often confusing understanding that her real mother, Sarah, was somewhere else, living a different kind of life. It wasn't easy. Raising a child in your 50s is different than in your 20s. There were moments of exhaustion, moments of doubt, but there was also immense joy, a love so profound it filled the void left by my husband's passing and the sadness caused by my daughter's absence. Lily was my purpose, my light, the unexpected second chance at motherhood that enriched my life in ways I never could have imagined. We talked about Sarah when Lily was old enough to ask questions. I kept it simple, honest, age-appropriate. I told her her mother loved her, but was struggling with some difficult things that made it hard for her to be a full-time mom. I showed her photos of Sarah from when she was young, told her stories about her childhood, tried to paint a picture of a person, not just an absence. Lily's understanding grew over the years, from the simple acceptance of a child to the more complex emotions of a teenager grappling with a parent's abandonment. There was hurt, confusion, sometimes anger, but there was also a quiet yearning. A longing for the mother she barely knew. Sarah's contact remained sporadic. Phone calls that were sometimes clear and filled with promises, other times disjointed and confusing. Visits that were planned, but often canceled at the last minute. It was a cycle of fleeting hope and quiet disappointment that was perhaps more painful for Lily than complete absence. I tried to protect Lily from the inconsistency, to manage her expectations, but it was impossible to completely shield her from the reality of her mother's unpredictable presence in her life. As Lily entered young adulthood, the calls from Sarah became less frequent, then stopped altogether for a few years. I worried, but I also, selfishly perhaps, felt a sense of relief. The inconsistency, the broken promises had been hard on Lily. The silence, while sad, was less disruptive. Lily was now 20 years old, a beautiful, bright young woman in college, studying art history, a passion I had unknowingly nurtured in her. A passion she pursued with a quiet determination that reminded me of myself at that age. She was independent, resilient, with a strong sense of self, despite the unconventional circumstances of her upbringing. She knew I was her grandmother, that Sarah was her birth mother, but our bond was that of mother and daughter. She was my daughter in every way that mattered. My life had settled into a new rhythm again. My active mothering days were mostly behind me, replaced by the joys of seeing Lily thrive, of building my own life in retirement. The chapter of Sarah's struggles, of her absence, felt, if not closed, at least paused. And then the doorbell rang. It was a bright spring afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. A woman was standing on my porch. She looked familiar. Her face was lined, older than I remembered, but the eyes, the set of her jaw, my breath hitched. It was Sarah. Chapter 2. Seeing Sarah on my doorstep after 2 years of complete silence was like seeing a ghost. She looked different, thinner, perhaps, but with a clarity in her eyes that had often been missing before. She looked clean, healthy. Her voice hesitant, unsure. I opened the door, a rush of emotions flooding me. Surprise, relief, apprehension, a lingering thread of resentment for the years of silence. "Sarah," I said, my voice quiet. "It's you." We stood there for a moment, looking at each other across the threshold. 20 years of unspoken history hanging in the air between us. I invited her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where she had handed me a tiny bundle 2 decades ago. The room felt different now, filled with photos of Lily growing up, tangible evidence of the life that had gone on without her. We talked for hours. She told me her story, the story of the years she had been absent from our lives. It was a difficult story, filled with struggles, relapses, moments of despair, and brief glimpses of hope. She had been in and out of rehab, had faced challenges I could only imagine. But she was clean now. She had been clean for over a year. She had a stable job, a small apartment. She was rebuilding her life, piece by piece. She spoke of her regret, her shame, her guilt over leaving Lily, over her inconsistency, her absence. Tears streamed down her face. as she spoke of the years she had missed, the milestones she hadn't witnessed. She understood, she said, the impact her absence had had on Lily, on me. I wasn't able to be a mother, Mom, she said, her voice raw. I wasn't healthy. I wasn't strong enough. I would have only hurt her. Leaving her with you, it was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was the best thing for her. I knew you would give her a good life, a stable life. Hearing her say that, hearing her acknowledge the reality of her past struggles and the validity of my role in Lily's life, eased some of the resentment I had carried. It didn't erase the pain of the years of absence, but it offered a different perspective, a more compassionate understanding of the demons she had been battling. But I'm better now, Mom, she said, her eyes filled with a fragile hope. I'm finally in a place where I can try to be a mother. Try to be in her life. She's 20 now, an adult. I know I can't just step back in and pretend like nothing happened. But I want to get to know her, Mom. I want her to know me, the real me, not the person I was, the person who left her. The conversation shifted to Lily. Sarah wanted to see her, to talk to her. This was the delicate part. Lily was an adult, with her own feelings, her own understanding of their history. The decision to connect, and in what way, was hers to make. I explained that Lily knew who she was, that we had talked about her over the years, shown her photos. But I also explained the depth of our bond, the mother-daughter relationship that had naturally formed between us. She knows you're her birth mother, Sarah, I said gently. But she calls me Mom. I raised her. I was there. That's our reality. Sarah's face fell slightly, a flicker of pain in her eyes. I understand, Mom, she said softly. I don't expect to just replace you. That's not what I want. I just want a chance to build a relationship with her now, whatever that looks like. We decided the first step would be for Sarah to write Lily a letter expressing her feelings, her regrets, her hopes for the future, allowing Lily to process the information in her own time, in her own way. Sarah stayed for a few days, quiet, thoughtful, trying to navigate the unfamiliar territory of being back in the home that had raised her daughter. She looked at the photos of Lily, tears in her eyes as she saw the milestones she had missed. She spoke of her son, Tom, my son, her brother, and the years of distance between them. Another relationship strained by her struggles. When she left, she hugged me tightly, tears in both our eyes. Thank you, Mom, she whispered, for everything, for Lily, for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. Chapter 3. Sarah's return set in motion a complex emotional process for all of us. For me, it was a mix of hope for her recovery, a lingering thread of resentment for the past, and a deep protectiveness of Lily and the life we had built. For Sarah, it was a journey of confronting her past, acknowledging her failures, and navigating the daunting task of trying to build a relationship with an adult daughter she barely knew. For Lily, it was perhaps the most challenging, grappling with the return of a parent who had been a ghost in her life for 20 years, reconciling the image she had built of her with the reality of the woman standing before her. Sarah wrote the letter to Lily, a long, heartfelt confession of her struggles, her regrets, her love. I gave it to Lily, allowing her the privacy to read it, to process its contents in her own time. Lily's reaction was complex. There were tears, sadness for her mother's pain, anger at the years of absence and broken promises. But there was also a sense of understanding, a deeper empathy for the struggles her mother had faced. Reading about the depth of her mother's illness and addiction, about the battles she had fought, put the years of absence into a new, albeit painful, context. After reading the letter, Lily decided she was willing to talk to Sarah. The first conversation was hesitant, awkward, filled with unspoken emotions. It talked about the past, about the years of separation, about Lily's feelings of abandonment and confusion. Sarah answered her questions honestly, openly sharing the painful details of her struggles, her journey towards recovery. It wasn't a magical reunion, not a sudden erasing of the past. It was a slow, deliberate process of two people, a mother and a daughter, strangers in many ways, attempting to build a bridge across 2 decades of absence. There were moments of connection, moments of awkwardness, moments where the pain of the past resurfaced. Lily was clear about her boundaries. She loved me as her mother, and that bond was unbreakable. She was open to getting to know Sarah, to building a relationship, but it would be a relationship defined by the reality of their history, not by a fantasy of what might have been. I watched from a distance, offering support when needed, but allowing them the space to navigate their own complex dynamic. It was difficult at times, seeing Lily grapple with the pain her mother's return brought, seeing Sarah struggle with the weight of her past failures and the challenges of connecting with the adult daughter she barely knew. Sarah continued to visit, to call, to slowly weave herself back into our lives, not as a full-time parent, but as a presence, a person who was trying to make amends, to be present in whatever way Lily was comfortable with. My own relationship with Sarah also began to heal. The resentment I had carried for the years of absence softened as I witnessed her commitment to her recovery, her genuine remorse, her efforts to connect with Lily. We talked about the past, about her struggles, about the weight of her guilt. It was a difficult but necessary conversation, a way of clearing the air, of finding a path towards forgiveness. Wasn't about forgetting the past, but about understanding it, acknowledging the pain it caused, and finding a way to move forward. Sarah's return also brought a new dynamic to her relationship with her brother, my son, Tom. They had drifted apart over the years, their bond strained by her struggles and absence. Seeing her recovery, her efforts to reconnect, opened a door for them to begin rebuilding their relationship, a sibling bond that had been neglected for too long. The process was slow, filled with setbacks and challenges, but there was a sense of cautious hope, a possibility of healing and reconciliation that had felt impossible for many years. Chapter 4. As the months turned into a year, Sarah's presence in our lives became more consistent, more comfortable. She was a regular visitor, joining us for family dinners, attending some of Lily's college events from a distance, respecting Lily's space. She wasn't trying to replace me or to erase the 20 years of absence, but she was carving out a new role for herself, a role defined by honesty, remorse, and a genuine desire to be a positive presence in Lily's life. Lily's relationship with Sarah continued to evolve. There were still moments of pain, of surfacing questions about the past, but there was also a growing sense of understanding, a reluctant but real empathy for the struggles her mother had faced. They found common ground, shared interests, a quiet connection that was building, piece by piece. Lily was learning to navigate the complexities of having a birth mother who was also a relative stranger, a woman who was both a source of past pain and a potential source of future connection. My own relationship with Sarah had transformed. The resentment had largely dissipated, replaced by a deep sense of compassion for the journey she had been on and admiration for the strength it had taken her to return and face her past. We talked openly about the years of her absence, about the pain it caused, and about the choices we had all made. It was a process of mutual understanding, of acknowledging the complexities of our family history, and of finding a path towards forgiveness, not just for Sarah, but for ourselves, for the burdens we had carried, for the ways our lives had been shaped by difficult circumstances. Sarah's recovery wasn't a magical fix, a sudden erasure of the past. She still faced challenges, still worked on maintaining her sobriety and mental health. But she faced them with a strength and resilience I hadn't seen in her before. She was a different person than the lost young woman who had shown up on my doorstep 20 years ago, a person who had faced her demons and was actively working to rebuild her life and her relationships. The dynamics within our family shifted. Tom and Sarah were slowly reconnecting, finding their way back to a sibling bond that had been fractured for years. Lily was navigating her relationship with her birth mother, a relationship that was unique and complex, layered with the history of absence and the fragile hope of a future connection. I was no longer just the grandmother who had stepped in. I was the mother who had raised Lily, the constant in her life, the one who had provided stability and unconditional love. My role was secure, defined by years of shared history and an unbreakable bond. Sarah's role was different, a role she was actively building, a role based on honesty, remorse, and a commitment to being present in whatever way Lily was comfortable with. The house, once filled with the echoing silence of loss and absence, was now filled with the cautious sounds of reconnection, of difficult conversations, of tentative laughter. It was a house healing, piece by piece, just like the people within its walls. The journey wasn't over. There were still challenges to face, the motions to navigate, a new family dynamic to define. But there was also a profound sense of hope, a possibility of a different kind of future, a future where the pain of the past didn't define us, but was simply a part of the complex, messy, beautiful tapestry of our family story. The doorbell that rang after 20 years didn't just bring Sarah back into our lives. It brought with it the possibility of healing, of forgiveness, of a family finding its way back to a form of wholeness, not by forgetting the past, but by acknowledging it, understanding it, and choosing to move forward together, one difficult, hopeful step at a time. My daughter had returned, wanting her place back, and in the process, we were all finding a new place, a new way of being family, a testament to the enduring power of love and the possibility of redemption, even after 2 decades of silence and separation. Chapter 5. Life rarely offers neat endings, but sometimes it offers moments of profound understanding and the possibility of healing. My daughter Sarah's return after 20 years of absence didn't magically erase the pain of the past or the challenges we had all faced. But it opened a door to a future where healing and reconnection were possible. a future we were all tentatively stepping into together. Sarah's journey of recovery was ongoing, a testament to her strength and resilience. She was committed to staying healthy, to being present in our lives in a way she hadn't been able to before. Her relationship with Lily continued to evolve, a delicate dance of navigating past pain and building a new connection. Lily, now a young woman with her own life, was generous with her time and her willingness to engage, but she was also clear about her boundaries and the reality of the mother-daughter bond she shared with me. I saw the complexity of their relationship, the layers of love, hurt, and tentative understanding. It wasn't the conventional mother-daughter relationship, and it never would be, but it was theirs, unique and precious in its own way. My own relationship with Sarah had moved from a place of resentment and disappointment to one of compassion and cautious optimism. We talked about the years of her absence, about the choices she made, about the impact on our family. These were difficult conversations, but necessary for healing. Forgiveness wasn't a single event, but a process, a gradual release of the past, replaced by a focus on the present and the possibility of a different kind of future. Sarah's return also brought a sense of closure, a filling in of the blanks about her life during those 20 years. Understanding the depth of her struggles, the battles she had fought, humanized her absence, making it less about a deliberate abandonment and more about a person lost in the grips of illness and despair. Our family dynamic had shifted, expanded. Sarah was back, not just as a daughter, but as Lily's birth mother, navigating her role in Lily's adult life. Tom and Sarah were rebuilding their sibling relationship, finding their way back to a bond that had been strained for years. And I, the grandmother who had become a mother, was finding a new balance, embracing the complex layers of our family, the intertwined roles and relationships. The house was no longer a place of quiet grief and echoing absence. It was filled with the sounds of life, of conversations, of shared meals, of the tentative laughter of a family finding its way back to a form of wholeness. The photos of Lily growing up on the walls were no longer just reminders of the years Sarah missed, but testaments to the love and stability that had been provided, the foundation upon which new connections could be built. The doorbell that rang after 20 years was not an ending, but a beginning. A beginning of healing, of reconciliation, of a family choosing to face the past, to navigate the complexities of the present, and to build a future together. One defined not by the pain of what was lost, but by the fragile but enduring hope of what could still be found. My daughter had returned, wanting her place back, and in doing so, she had helped us all find a new place, a new way of being family, a testament to the transformative power of love, forgiveness, and the resilience of the human heart. The chapter of her absence was closed, and a new chapter, filled with the quiet possibility of reconnection and healing, was just beginning. A testament to the fact that sometimes the most profound journeys begin with a simple doorbell ring after 20 long years.